Welcome back to the garage, the Blue Label Racing Garage, in fact, where we're continuing work on my newest mistake, the $300 E46 wagon that's right behind me. Now, in the last video, we did a lot of mechanical repairs. We're going to continue those because it's a new weekend. I've got some more time, and we're going to do a lot of fluid changes and just generally check out the undercarriage, make sure I'm not missing anything. I also got a new axle we got to throw into the passenger side front, so we'll do that as well. On the drive over to the shop this morning, I noticed the brakes were acting a little weird. It was like pulling to one direction, especially on the highway. And I noticed the brake lines looked pretty sorry in the previous weekend because they were, well, look how crusty those are. And you'll notice that they're damp now. And right on the fuel tank, it's wet. So I'm guessing it just so happened over the last week, one of those lines ruptured. So add that to the list of things I need to do. I'll have to be an OEM BMW part because all of the lines, basically the master cylinder to the back of the car, need to be replaced. And I'm gonna go ahead and replace these flexible hoses as well, but not this video because it'll probably take a week to get those in. Check out the other side. Have you ever seen brake lines that bad? Well, if you live in the Northeast, the answer might be yes. But in the Midwest, it takes a few more years of a car's life before they look like that. So I have a feeling there's going to be nothing being unscrewed. It's all going to have to be cut out. But that's an issue to deal with next weekend. Here is the new axle. It's a rebuilt original BMW one that I got from Napa. I think I'm going to have better luck installing this than an aftermarket one. Remember from the last episode, the reason we're replacing the passenger CV axle because it has a lot of bad play in it. Yikes. Moving forward, I got the axle out, but things have really spiraled out of control. It was a pain in the butt to get this lower ball joint separated, and by the time I got that separated, I broke the pinch bolt that holds the strut to the carrier assembly, so now we are at that point. Luckily, the CV axle is out, so at least that's going to be easy to put back in, but let's go see the current problem. In an attempt to get better access to the ball joint, or rather circumvent the ball joint altogether, I was going to remove the strut from this spindle carrier assembly. But the bolt, this pinch bolt, holds the strut in, snapped off because this is a very Midwest car that's seen a lot of winters, and salt and corrosion have built in that bolt. So now at the point of what do I do now? Because this strut assembly is kind of loose in the carrier. I think I'm going to weld a bolt, at least try to weld a bolt to the end of this and see if I can't thread it out. Fingers crossed. Jeremy's just welded a washer to the top of that stud. Look at that masterpiece.
Well, that's what I was afraid of.
Looks like a 5th grade science experiment. Holy. I mean, that ought to do it.
I sure hope so. It's better, but I still think we're going to break it off.
Wait. It is moving it.
It's trying.
It's a good thing this table's metal. Let's turn this welder up to 1000. I can't be screwing around with this anymore. All right, now it's time to change out the front diff oil. I doubt this has ever been changed out in this car's life. And I've already removed the fill plug. Now I've already loosened the drain plug. Now it's time to see how nasty this stuff is. Ooh. That is, that looks 17 years old.
It moved.
Oh my God. Look at that.
Look at how well that moves now. Let's see if we can.
It only took like 3 hours.
Hey, we're at exactly 49 minutes. Now the only issue is
Finding a bolt.
yeah. Look at that's really the only amount of threads that
We're in it.
we're holding on to. That's interesting.
So it must not actually be threaded on that side.
No, it's not threaded on this side, and it's really only threaded. It seems like in that last
Portion.
chunk there.
Wow.
We are at 24 minutes plus an hour, so an hour and 25 minutes or so.
But if you don't have another one of these laying around to swap in,
Yeah.
you wouldn't even be able to swap it in because you still have to get the strut out unless you get it all as an assembly. So since things are spiraling out of control, I also have to replace the top strut mount. Look how much play is in that. It gives a nice knocking noise when you go over bumps in the front end. Got a new one over here. So I'll whip off the spring and get this mounted up. So I've got this cool little pressure filler that's filling the front differential up with some new red line 75W140. Take a little over 1 quart, I believe. We'll just see when it starts coming out the fill plug. This is a really nifty piece of equipment. It's made by Mighty Vac. Just give it a few pumps and it keeps pressure in that chamber. Just pushes the fluid right up. I think we might be getting close into full there because it's starting to dribble out the plug. Over here is the strut assembly. I've got a new bolt run through there. It is a M12 by 1.5 thread. This one's 60 millimeters long. I put a lot of anti-seize on this whole assembly so that if it does have to come back out at some point, it's not going to be a nightmare like I just went through. And I got the new strut mount installed on there, so hopefully it'll reduce some of the knocking in the front suspension. And the new axle is installed. Up there, looks nice. All right, now we're gonna do the rear differential fluid change. I've got the fill plug removed and then take the drain plug out. Let's see how bad this stuff looks. That was close. Actually not too terrible. Looks like that's been serviced more frequently than the front anyway. So I'll also be filling this back up with 75W140. The front only took 1 quart, so the rear might take a little bit more. It's a little bit larger casing. All right, so I filled up the rear differential, took a little over 1 quart. And then we're moving on to the transfer case. Pulled out the fill plug, and we already have fluid coming out the fill plug. I'll pull out the drain plug right here. I'm sure this will look terrible. So this takes pretty much automatic transmission fluid. I'll be putting in this red line ATF-D4. It won't take very much, I doubt. All right, so that is topped up. It only took like 1/3 of a quart. It hardly holds anything at all. But now it is nice red fluid in there. Now it's time to put this front end back together. I put that arm, control arm, on the level sensor. That was pretty easy. I put the axle back in, so I just need to put front upright back into place. Since I don't have to deal with any seized hardware, it should go pretty quickly. All right, so that is the upright put back in, new axle inserted, level sensor installed, and a new sway bar end link installed. And then obviously our new bolt holding the upright to the spindle carrier. And it's looking pretty decent in here. For an old car. Now when I rock the axle back and forth, you don't see that terrible play in it. So that's good. And hopefully my headlights work properly now that that level sensor's installed. So we're at the end of the day. That's all I can get done in this weekend, and we'll have to get the rest of the stuff hopefully finished by next weekend. Got a lot of parts I need to order, such as all those brake lines, so that this thing's safe to drive once again. I knew this was going to happen. I just didn't think it'd happen so soon. But you know what? It's a safety issue. Got to take care of it. This is just what happens when you work with old cars, especially ones that have been through the Midwest with corrosion and all that. Simple things always take longer than you anticipate. So on that note, thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys again next time.